Hey everyone, welcome to Broadband Deployment News. There was a grant in East Carroll Parish, Louisiana, that was protested by Sparklight, and it looks like that protest has been rejected. And the reasoning for that is not exactly great. I'll be right back. Hey, thanks for joining me. Rick Husey here with Broadband Deployment News. So I saw this story. This was on Broadband.money, and I'd seen this prior on Broadband.money that this protest had taken place. Basically, it was a last-minute protest. So a company called Conexon had won a Louisiana broadband grant. I think it's their Gumbo program, one of my favorite acronyms for anything. So this is Louisiana. That's their broadband grant program. And at the last minute, I think it was like towards the end of that, right before the protest could be done, Sparklight came in, which is a cable operator in there, and they said, hey, we serve part of this area, and so they put in a protest for that. And it looks like just now they've come out, the broadband office, and denied that protest, or they rejected that. So you can see here again, I'll link to this Broadband.money post here. And down at the bottom, they have a link to the letter where they explain why that was rejected. So I was going to go through the letter because there's some really fallacious reasoning in this letter as to why they denied it. I'm not taking sides because I don't know all of the facts, but as I'm looking through the letter, it's like, well, the reasons that they're denying this don't make any sense at all because of some of the things that they say. So I was just going to go through that. So this is the letter from, it's the Office of Broadband and Connectivity in Louisiana. It's from the director there, Ken Connor. So just some little background here. So they're talking about unserved areas in Louisiana and how they're defined with their state programs. It's very similar to national. So they say it's unserved if the internet access speeds are of at least 25 meg down or 3 meg. If it's less than that, it's unserved. So they've got this competitive grant application process, and between November 1st and January 12th, 2022, service providers were invited to submit applications. Again, for these Gumbo grant funds. Forget what that stands for, but again, that's an acronym, and it's great. So the grant on July 25th, 2022, grant applications were approved. Any party opposed had 7 days or until August 1st, 2022 to file a protest. So really, when I said last minute, it's not like they waited months and then filed it. I mean, there was only a 7-day period where they could file this protest. So Conexon were the folks that won that. And Conexon's a company that around the country is deploying broadband. They've not been around that long, but they've done a good job of working with electric co-ops and helping them provide broadband services. So they've done a lot of bids. They've done a lot of RDOF stuff. They worked with a lot of states and co-ops to get broadband in the ground. So they bid and won this. And you can see here they submitted a Gumbo grant, application number 87. To unserved portions of East Carroll Parish. So again, the goal here was to serve these areas that had less than 25.3. You see here, Sparklight submitted a timely protest of that award. Again, that needed to be within 7 days. So it might have been at the last minute of this. It might have been on the last day, but it had to be within 7 days. And a little bit more background here. And this is the office or the director speaking, Mr. Connor. At the outset, I note that Sparklight's August 1, 2022 protest includes virtually no narrative whatsoever of its arguments. Rather, Sparklight simply offers 2 categories identified as upload-download speed and number of locations. Sparklight's single sentence explaining these categories is number of serviceable locations within the proposed area, including the speeds those serviceable locations are able to receive, and he adds the emphasis there. Sparklight lists 960 by 50 megs as the upload-download speed, so almost a gig, and then down 50 meg up. And 2,856 is the number of locations. So locations would be homes, businesses, so that's an individual address that they're saying they would cover. Thus, as best OBDC can determine, Sparklight is alleging that it is able to service 2,856 locations within the area applied for Conexon's application at a speed of 960 by 50. On August 9, 2022, OBDC requested it start, they mispronounced this or misspell it here. It's supposed to be Sparklight. Sparklight provide additional documents. These documents sought subscription data, service address, subscribe, download, upload speed, maximum available download, upload speed available. and redacted billing statements for 10% of the subscribed protest locations. Sparklight provided documents which included some redacted billing statements with subscriber addresses, as well as a spreadsheet outlining subscribed download-upload speed and available download-upload speed. So subscribe meaning they have customers in this area that are subscribing to this service, and then available. On September 6, 2022, Conexon responded to Sparklight's protest on several grounds. First, Conexon contends that the more than 500 signed statements from residents of East Carroll Parish provide evidence that there's a lack of reliable and affordable broadband service within East Carroll Parish. Now, I don't know, I don't know all the facts, so I don't know where Conexon was surveying. This could be areas where Sparklight doesn't provide service, because Sparklight does not provide service throughout the entire East Carroll Parish. They're just saying they provide service to these specific homes or locations. And they could certainly, people, a lot of times you survey people and they're like, you can't please some people any of the time. So it's possible they got some people that were Sparklight customers that are just not happy. It's certainly possible. Or it could be that those people are getting service from other operators in that area. As we can see in a minute here, I'm going to show you all the people that service certain areas of this county or this parish. Conexon also points out an affordability metric, which allegedly illustrates that its own broadband subscription offerings are more affordable than those of Sparklight. Now, they don't have broadband there yet, so I guess they're going based on what they are projecting their costs would be, based probably on what they charge. I should say their prices would be based on what their costs are in other areas. And this really shouldn't come into account anyway, as this Mr. Connor will rule here in a minute. Additionally, Conexon suggests that Sparklight's information it provides on Form 477 does not satisfactorily advance Sparklight's argument that it adequately services the area. Next, Conexon points to Sparklight's use of DOCSIS technology and explains limitations of this technology. So it's true, the Form 477 data, Sparklight should have just left that out because that's really kind of meaningless. That just says that in a particular census block, they can provide service in that census block to at least one location. It doesn't mean they provide it to all locations or even a majority of locations in that census block. And then they mentioned DOCSIS technology, and here's where it really goes off the rails. So I think actually Sparklight, they have an opportunity to appeal this, and they've got really good grounds based on the reason that this Mr. Connor, is rejecting this, as we'll go through here and you'll see. Sparklight has submitted shape files, heat maps, an affidavit, FCC Form 477, again, which is not that useful, a spreadsheet, and redacted subscription statements to support its position. Now, shape files means that they're submitting a file that's showing here is the specific area that we cover with our service. So it's basically drawn on a map. It's a polygon on a map that says these particular locations we serve. So that's certainly important for them to know. He says, I've reviewed all of these documents. Additionally, I've consulted with 2 third-party reviewers with significant experience in the broadband arena. It's my opinion that Sparklight's not satisfied its burden of proof. Because Sparklight has provided such a limited explanation of its position, it is difficult to discern and analyze its argument. Again, though, turning to the words within its one-page protest, Sparklight states that the information it has provided is the number of serviceable locations within the proposed project area, including the speeds those serviceable locations are able to receive. Based on this information, it appears that Sparklight is not asserting that the locations within the area are receiving the speed of 960 by 50, but rather that they are able to receive these speeds. Well, that's fine, because they don't have to have any customers, right? Conexon is providing service to nobody. They don't have any infrastructure there yet. And certainly the shape files, for example, that Sparklight sent them says these are the homes that we can provide service to. This is the same exact thing that the BEAD program is going to be looking for, and that the broadband maps are looking for, which is what areas can you cover? If somebody wanted service, where can you do a standard installation and get service, let's say within, I think it's 10, 14 days. I forget what the number is. I think 2 weeks approximately. Standard installation. In other words, you don't need to extend your network. You can provide service there. It doesn't mean you have to be providing service there, because not everybody takes your service, right? So this doesn't make any sense. If it is OBDC's opinion that the intent and purpose of the GOMO Act is the statutorily mandated speeds will be delivered and received functionally and reliably. Again, Conexon's not delivering anything yet, and that's perfectly fine because they've got to build the infrastructure, and it's perfectly fine that Sparklight can provide service to these areas today within 14 days, but not necessarily providing service to each one of these addresses. That's just not, you can't have 100% take rate in a particular area, and that sounds like what they're asking for here. When I consider the paucity of information set forth in Sparklight's narrative, it's my opinion that Sparklight has not met its burden to demonstrate that the necessary speed is reliably delivered and received by the residents of the area at issue. Well, my guess is that they do provide service to some number of homes. Maybe they overestimated, I don't know, maybe it's not that many, but they must provide service to some number of homes. And I guarantee you some number of homes can get well over 25x3 service if Sparklight is in there and they have their DOCSIS plant, which is perfectly capable of delivering speeds over 25x3. So again, they have a case here to appeal this. They talk about speed testing here, and Sparklight really should have tried to do something, but I don't think they had, maybe they felt like they didn't have time, and they'd have to actually, they can't do the speed testing, they have to get customers to do it. So Sparklight's offered no data or evidence with regard to specific speeds actually delivered and received by its customers or at locations within the area. In its response, Conexon asserts that Sparklight utilizes a DOCSIS technology type and that such technology has inherent limitations, particularly with regard to the upload portion of the network. Conexon's argument has been corroborated by OPC's third-party consultants. Well, anyone will tell you that, and I've said this, that DOCSIS is more challenging to provide higher upload speeds because unlike fiber, it's hard to get symmetrical speeds, and the way that the plant is divided, you've got a larger portion of spectrum for download than upload, because download is really primarily where most people are using the service. So you could get, like, for example, 200 by 50 or something like that, or like they're saying here, almost a gig by 50, I think is what the plan is. So it's a lot easier to provide download, but 50 is a lot of upload speed for what people are using today. Let's see, the fiber, that is, let's see what it says here. That is DOCSIS networks use a mixture of fiber and coax cable, because it's an HFC network, to provide network to service customers. The fiber component provides up and down service to a node, and from the node via coax cable to the customer's location. That's what the hybrid fiber coax is. While the speeds available to the node on the fiber have been reported to be very high, the speeds to the customer over the coax cable may be limited. Well, what they're saying there, which is the way it works, is the speeds over the fiber is going to be faster and more reliable. That's why cable operators are trying to get their plants further out with fiber. And then once you get over coax, then you've got the challenges of RF signals, those kinds of things. In such a system, data is distributed by coaxial fiber to customers, by coaxial cable to customers. And this can fluctuate greatly in speeds due to a number of factors, including bad coax cable, amplifiers, filters, data taps, and loading during peak times. And these are all things that people are well aware of on a cable plant. It doesn't mean that the cable plant can't do 25x3. That's the issue here. Significantly, many customers share service from the same node, thereby reducing speed to the customer greatly, particularly during peak usage. Yeah, if they don't have enough bandwidth or they have too many customers on a node, that can be an issue. But these are things that are not necessarily happening in East Carroll Parish. We don't know, right? As Conexon explains, cable systems that were designed with limited upload capacity and high oversubscription ratios have become strained. That's true, but again, that doesn't necessarily mean that this Sparklight network and cable plant is that way. It may be, I don't know, it may be, but to say that this can be the case in a cable plant is not really relevant to this situation, unless they really know that's the case. It says here, although Sparklight did submit a spreadsheet outlining the speeds subscribed to at certain subscriber locations, as well as the potential available speeds at certain locations, this information still does not establish what speeds are actually received at certain locations within the area. Additionally, while Sparklight claims node speeds of 950 by 50 within its spreadsheet, there are no supporting speed tests to substantiate these claims. Without Sparklight providing any speed tests at actual customer locations, Sparklight still has not demonstrated what the maximum statutory speeds are consistently and reliably received at specific customer locations. Thus, Sparklight has not established what true speeds are available to its customers, and has therefore failed to carry its burden of proof as the protester. And if I were Sparklight, in addition to pointing out the fallacious nature of their argument as far as DOCSIS and some other things, I would go out to some customers and say, hey, can we do a quick speed test and get some data that shows that they're well over 25x3 where they can. Then it talks about the Form 477 data. Again, this was this was really not relevant. He says that. He says Form 477 cannot be relied on to determine whether areas are unserved pursuant to the Gumbo rules, and that's perfectly true. Form 477 references maximum available speeds, while the Gumbo rules reference minimum available speeds. In reference to broadband internet service, a maximum speed is one that may be achieved during optimal conditions, which may only occur sporadically or at certain times of the day, and the amount of traffic on the network is low. Conversely, a minimum speed is one that must be met or exceeded at all times. So again, the network should still be able to do 25 by 3 minimum if they've got it built correctly, if they've got it architected right. Certain technologies being used to provide internet access service due to technical limitations may have actual maximum download and upload speeds that are less than what is reported as maximum advertised download and upload speeds on FCC Form 477. And that's true. Now, as far as the broadband maps that we're looking at and that everybody's providing data for, that is advertised maximum speed. So they're actually doing the same thing that I guess Sparklight was reporting here, and maybe that's why Sparklight did that, was they're going based on the most current thing that the FCC is looking for in these broadband maps. I don't know. Other Conexon arguments. Conexon has also proposed that Sparklight fails to meet the affordability metric because Conexon allegedly offers more robust subscription packages at a lower cost. Again, that should not really be relevant when you, because again, the whole purpose of this, I mean, if the purpose was to bring down the cost of broadband and to say, we're going to fund another competitor in the area to bring down the cost of broadband, that would be different. This argument would be relevant then, but it's not relevant because the purpose of this program is to provide service to areas that are unserved, which means they're not getting 25 by 3. And price at this point is not the issue, I guess. While cost is one of the factors for scoring in the evaluation of applications, it was not, nor was it required to be, the sole consideration when evaluating applications. Nevertheless, because I find that Sparklight has not even established that it adequately delivers the statutorily mandated service speeds to the area at issue, an evaluation of the protester and applicant's affordability metrics is moot. So it should be moot anyway. They're saying it's moot because they haven't demonstrated that they can even provide these speeds, but it should really be moot anyway. I guess not, I suppose, because if they're comparing applications, then no, it really should be, okay, because again, it's all down to, I'm sorry, I'm thinking this through. So it's all down to whether these particular locations have broadband speeds of over 25 by 3. And I don't know all of the rules in Gumbo, but I'm assuming there should be something in there about not overbuilding a location that's already considered served, or in other words, over 25 by 3. And if you're funding it over 25 by 3 because somebody says they can provide a lower price, then that's not really meeting the goal of the program. You'd be better off taking that money and putting it in areas where they don't have broadband access now, where it's less than 25 by 3. Last, Conexon has offered what it alleges are more than 500 sworn statements from residents of the area that at issue issuing to the lack of adequate broadband service. Again, we don't know where these 500 residents are. They could be in areas that are not served by Sparklight. They could be customers where maybe they are served by Sparklight, but they are getting service from some other provider there. They don't have Sparklight. So we don't know. Again, local support may be considered or evaluated during the award phase. However, at the protest phase, I'm not charged with weighing such support or lack for a particular vendor. Rather, it's clear that the protester, Sparklight, has not met its burden of establishing that it delivers consistent and reliable service at the required speeds to the area at issue. Thus, I decline to rule on this issue raised by Conexon, as it too is moot. So again, it really comes down to are these areas served or unserved? And that's what he's saying, but the reason he's saying what he's saying is they haven't proven that they're served in these areas. So that's really all Sparklight needs to do is, again, provide some proof that they can provide these kinds of speeds, anything over 25 by 3 to these areas. They should be able to get those areas excluded from what Conexon builds. So that's really what it comes down to. But he's rejected everything based on this. He says this decision is final and conclusive unless it's appealed to the Commission of Administration within 15 days of receipt. So Sparklight has 15 days to appeal this. And then it can be appealed one more time. The decision of the Commissioner of Administration shall be final and conclusive unless it's appealed to the 19th Judicial District within 7 days of receipt. Again, I believe they have good grounds to appeal this based on the reasoning, because DOCSIS technology, based on this reasoning, it would mean that anywhere there is cable plant, Comcast, Charter, anybody, then you could say, well, it's not sufficient because DOCSIS is not as reliable as fiber, and you've got amplifiers, and you've got signal loss and all these things that happen on well, you know what? That's just a fact of life. We all know this. We're not trying to, and even cable operators know this. Cable operators would love to go fiber to the curb right now. It's just really too expensive for them to rip out all their infrastructure at this point. So that when they're going greenfield, they're doing fiber to the home. When they're in a brownfield area, they're upgrading their plant as much as possible to reduce the amount of coax cable, to be able to increase upload speeds. There are real options for cable operators to increase their upload speeds. I talked about this in a broadcast the other day on a Tech Tuesday. I was talking about cable splits, doing mid splits and high splits that can get them well over, close to a gig really on the upload side. Really more on the upload side if they eventually go to DOCSIS 4.0. So they could get up to 10 gig down and 6 gig up on DOCSIS 4.0. So I don't think that Sparklight's going to be doing that in this small area, but certainly with DOCSIS 3.1 technology, they can get much higher than they are. So I want to take a look at East Carroll Parish. So this is East Carroll Parish on a map. This red outline here you see. And again, they're not claiming, I think, they're not claiming to serve this whole area, and we know they don't serve this whole area. But I was looking around trying to find out where they did serve. You've got some areas here. Where did I see that? Sorry, Hollybrook. I looked up a couple different areas. Well, actually, I've got them here. So that's the parish, and then if you look at, I did a couple of searches on East Carroll Parish. So if you look at internet providers in Lake Providence, Louisiana, that was one. Lake Providence, they all tend to be, if you look at the parish, they're all kind of in this, oh, here it is, Lake Providence. So it's up in this area. I looked at Lake Providence, I look at Shelburne, and those were both listed as areas where Sparklight provides service. So you see here Lake Providence, and I think they were both the same zip code. So you've got, for some reason, you've got your top internet provider. Yeah, this one's top internet providers, like top 3. It was showing as, and this is Broadband now, showing as, which is interesting, T-Mobile home internet. So you've got their 5G service that they're showing 182 megabits per second. Got AT&T showing 100 megabits per second. You've got Viasat, which is a geosynchronous satellite way up there, long latencies there. They can hit the area, 50 megabits per second, but not the best service. HughesNet, 25 megabits per second. Then you got Sparklight showing 1 gig down, and then you've got Delta high-speed internet, 20 meg. So that's from that site. And then I looked at one other place. I thought I did. I had one other one that I was looking at. But then I looked at what the plans are. So I clicked on this one. You can click on View Plans. And you can see here, this is what they say they're offering. It comes up as, yeah, here it says Lake Providence. So I looked up that zip code. So you can see they've got these different plans. So you got 200, 300, 500, and they've got their 1 gig. And when they say 1 gig, they say up here download speeds up to 940. So it's not quite a gig, but they're saying what it is there. So 940 by 50. So this is the plan that they're saying is their maximum available. And that's $110. It's not cheap for sure. You can a lot of times get fiber for, $80, $60, $80 around that, depending on who there is, like from AT&T. But here you've got 500 megs, that's 500 by 40, $90. You've got 300 by 30, $80. Then you've got 200 by 20 at $50 per month. So certainly there are options here for people in this area. So this is the kind of place where they are probably able to provide this service. If they're saying that, if they're advertising that they can do this kind of service and they've got these other plans, then they're providing service well over 25 by 3. So I understand why they protested this, because they don't want to be overbuilt. If they're already providing speeds like this in the area, they don't want somebody to be funded to overbuild their network. They'd have a competitor coming in, getting paid to overbuild their network. So they're wanting to say, hey, here are the areas in this county or in this parish that we're providing service. So they provided shape files of the particular areas that they're providing those services, and they're claiming these 2,000 plus customers are able to get service from them. Again, it doesn't matter whether the customers are getting service from them. The question is, can the customers get service at these speeds from them? And the way this letter is worded, it's like, you said they can get service from you, but not that they are getting service from you. Well, again, nobody's getting service from Conexon. So that's a completely erroneous argument. So I think they have good reasons to argue against this. And I was going to go ahead and share this as well, and I'll link to this as well. So a lot of people are talking about upload speeds and how, the reason upload speeds are a factor is because we can now do that with fiber. So upload speeds has never been that important, but it's gotten more important over time. We saw that with the pandemic as we had more people at home doing Zoom calls, and it's like, wow, you know what? It's more difficult with certain kinds of service. If people had, DSL and they had very slow speeds, that was an issue. But actually Cable Labs, now this is Cable Labs, so these are the folks that created the DOCSIS standard, but they've done testing before on services, and they tested 50 by 5, and they said, what kind of conferencing can you do on a 50 by 5 broadband service? And really, they went through this test and they looked at 4 different conferencing platforms, and they did 10 concurrent sessions at one time from one address over one cable modem. And they did that. Basically, what they did was they took one conferencing service and they had 10 laptops, and they just ran Zoom calls and whatever that conference session was on 10 different laptops. And they moved around the camera to make sure that it was picking up motion and those kinds of things. And they also had some background, other stuff, generating some other traffic on the background. And they found that this 50 by 5 was fine and handled 10 concurrent conference sessions at the same time with no issues, no jitter, no issues with the video. And then they took the four conference things and they kind of mixed it up. They did still 10 concurrent sessions, but they used the 4 different ones at the same time using a total of 10 sessions, and they found the same thing. So I'll post a link to that. So again, what's driven basically, what we have is we don't have a need yet for this kind of upload speeds that people are able to get today. Basically, the technology has exceeded the need at this point. And there will be a point in the future when we start doing more virtual reality or augmented reality and the whole metaverse and that kind of stuff where there's going to be even more upload need, but there's still not a need for as much as, a gig symmetrical. You don't need a gig upload speed for most people. When I say most people, I mean really pretty much any residential customer. If you're doing business kinds of things and those kinds of things, it's going to be more important that you have more bandwidth, but on the upload side, it's still most everything that everybody is doing is on the downstream. There are people like me at home right now where I am broadcasting a stream and I'm using my upload right now, but most of the time I'm not. Most of the time I'm consuming stuff. I'm consuming video. That's the real big consumption item that we're doing is, and that's really what's changed kind of the face of the internet and usage is that the floor level of bandwidth that people are using is much, much higher now. It's not that we're not just surfing the web a little bit and downloading files every now and then. People are streaming, 2-hour HD movies. So the floor has really gone up quite a bit on the downstream side. It's gone up on the upstream side as well because of things like I'm doing right now, because of conference calls and Zoom calls. But it's still far less than on the download side. So when you're talking about on the low end here, 200 megs by 20 megs, that's a significant amount of bandwidth that will be fine for most families as people start getting, as more people online and doing streaming and stuff, people want to upgrade to some of these other plans. But it looks to me that they've got these packages in place. And again, all they need to do is point out kind of some of the erroneous arguments that they make in there as far as, serving an address versus actually being available at the address. It really, what's important is that their service is available at the address. And then also, if I were them, I would get in there and do some speed tests with some customers in various locations. And I would try, if I could, to say, I would say, okay, we did a speed test at this address, and we did it at 2 p.m., and we did it at 8 p.m., and we did it at 10 p.m., do it at a couple of different times. Now, we're going to have to go into customer homes to do that, because it really needs to be done there. And they want to try to, they need to try, the problem is you got to take the customer's network out of there. If the customer is doing stuff over Wi-Fi and, the Wi-Fi access point is on one end of the house and they're trying to watch something on the other end of the house, then that's going to affect the speed test. So if they're doing a speed test, and the home network is causing a problem, then that makes it difficult. That's why speed tests are hard to, it's hard to tell exactly what people are getting unless you try to control some of those factors. So anyway, again, I'm not trying to take sides here. I think, I think fiber's the way to go, right? And I would say if these particular homes where Sparklight says they're providing service really are not able to get these speeds, they're able either not to sign up with Sparklight, or if they do sign up with them, they're not going to get 25 by 3, or they're going to get, they're going to get over that only sometimes of the day. Then I would say, yeah, it's better to have Conexon come in there and install fiber so that those folks can get better service. But if Sparklight is able to provide the kinds of speeds that we're seeing there on their website, then those should really be off limits for any funding, whether it's through the state, through this gumbo program, or anything in the future with the BEAD funding. Again, we need to cover these areas that really are unserved, or these locations that really are unserved, before we start spending money on overbuilding, because that's a waste of money, because then you're missing out on spending that money in areas that don't have broadband right now. So thanks for joining me. If this was interesting or helpful, if you would give me a thumbs up on the video, make sure you subscribe, click the little button to subscribe, click the bell. If you need, if you're an internet service provider and you need assistance on anything from provisioning devices to end user technical support, to diagnostics, to CALEA compliance, to IPv4 conservation, any of those things, check us out at zcorum.com. We can help in all those areas. Thanks a lot. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.